Next speaker, talking about truth tellers, have very few heroes in Australia. To be honest, let's be honest, we have very few heroes in Australia, even less in the Defence Force, for mine at least. But we have one here with us today, a man whose integrity led him to tell the truth about what happens in war, which led to a report that's currently, we're told, being investigated about war crimes committed by Australian soldiers acting in your name, in my name, in the politician's name, in his name. It's a hard road to travel, and we need to give this man every ounce of support we can on his journey. So please put them together, not just your hands but your hearts, for David Mcbride.
I need the microphone high because I feel like standing tall today. Seeing you all here makes me want to stand tall. The one thing I need to do, and some of you were there last night, but the one thing I really need to do is to thank you. To thank you for turning up. To thank you to keep protesting. And today I want to particularly thank the parliamentarians that are here. They're still here, but the two senators and Andrew Wilkie. It gives us enormous strength to have people who sit in Parliament get it and understand where we're coming from. So I can't thank those three people enough. The whole Greens is behind us, but Andrew Wilkie, it's incredibly inspiring for me to have someone who stood up against the lies around the Iraq War, sticking up for me. And it's I really want to thank Andrew. He's given me some great quotes, and I've sent them around the world to my friends in England. They don't necessarily know that much about Australian politics, but when they see a member of Parliament speaking up, it makes them think Australia must be a good place. So those people really are on the right side of history. I've got good news and the bad news, and the good news is I think we're going to win this. I really think we're going to win this. I think the broken door, that hides the sleaze in Parliament is just about to break down, and the protest today at lunchtime could be the last shove to push it in. As Bernard said, the fact of the matter is that so many of the people that govern us are simply pathological liars. They are not who they pretend to be. And like Bernard said, I am appalled at what our country has become. I grew up under the same atmosphere as Bernard. I grew up in the shadow of the Second World War, the greatest generation. I believed that. I believed all that. And my disgust and anger to find out that most of the people who make decisions in this country are really just charlatans in suits. And it is a disgrace, and it makes my blood boil. Senator Wish Wilson talked about the protests to the Iraq War in 2003. Now, I didn't protest the Iraq War in 2003. I was one of those people that believed that if our government was doing something, it was probably close to the truth or okay. And so it hit me harder than most to find out that the protesters were right, and it was a totally fake, illegal, disgusting action carried out by our governments, and the Australians were right there behind it. A lot of the Australians in some ways actually have more to be ashamed of than the Americans.
I agree. Yeah.
You know, because the Americans would not be able to do some things unless the Australians were backing them up.
Yeah.
So we are really complicit, and it's even worse because we are like this kind of sleazy, partner of the school bully who just walks around behind the school bully and says, yeah, whatever they say, yeah. We're not even the school bully. We're the crappy little accomplice of the school bully, and it makes me sick to see it. And what for? What do we benefit for? I can tell you because I've seen all the secret files. I've seen what's inside it, and I can tell you as an insider, I'm not like a rebel who came to this game opposing our forces. But I saw the reality, and the reality is we don't get anything out of the so-called strategic relationship. We get shame. We get lies. The Afghanistan war was no better than the Iraq war. It was better disguised, but it wasn't any better. It wasn't any different. It was all a show to win domestic elections. And when you think about that, that is really disgusting. We killed Afghan after Afghan. We dropped bombs on the wrong houses. We created terrorists. The really terrible fact is that we were less popular in 2013 than we were in 2002. They wanted us to come in 2002. They thought we might bring food and drinking water. Instead, we bought bombs because bombs sold elections. Bombs looked good on the 7:30 news. And we made terrorists. I was appalled to see a secret briefing in 2013 where the intelligence people said there are more would-be suicide bombers in the Middle East now than they have equipment to supply them with. And it doesn't cost that much to make a suicide vest. Now, that's a scary fact. They weren't there because they were brainwashed. They were there because they could see we were liars, we were cheats. We said we believed in the rule of law, we believed in the rule of money. We said we believed in human rights, and we set up Guantanamo Bay. Guantanamo Bay was cynically set up as almost like a joke to say, well, we have to give them rights if we put them in jail in America. We'd have to give them rights if we put them in jail in Afghanistan. So we'll find a place which is neither Afghanistan, it's neither America, and is legally nothing, and we'll put them there. Now that's cynical, and that is sick. A lot of people in Guantanamo Bay were simply Taliban soldiers. And there's thousands of lawyers that work for the US State Department. Now, they knew that it was not legally valid to put Taliban soldiers in some sort of high-security anti-terrorist organisation, but they did it. They might have had 10,000 international lawyers. And yet their purpose of most of these lawyers that work for the government, and Australia's the same, is to find ways for the government to break the law. I mean, we had an Australian lawyer, again, it makes my blood boil, who was posted to Abu Ghraib, and he saw all the atrocities at Abu Ghraib. And he came back, and he said, "Oh, it's all fine. It's all enhanced interrogation techniques." He came back to the Australian Army, and they didn't demote him; they promoted him. He was the sort of person that they wanted in the Australian. He was the sort of person who would cover up crime and would say everything's fine. And that's the sleaze got to the top. Because that's what they wanted, and it is quite disgusting if you knew what goes on in the higher echelons of the Defence Force and the higher echelons of the country, it is really, the more you know, the worse it is. It's no surprise for me to see the Attorney General accused of rape. Everything they do in Parliament is pushing the law, getting away with whatever they can get away with, and saying one thing and doing another. We really need to act, and we are acting, and I think the trajectory is going to change. As I said, I almost want to go to jail because it will be in people's faces to say, here's a guy that put his life on the line for his country. Here's a guy that believed the hype, that spent many years working with the Special Forces, working with the minister's people, and he saw what was actually going on, and he was disgusted. He was absolutely disgusted. And they're going to put me in jail. In fact, don't be fooled by... I doubt there will ever be any war crimes trials. What's happening now is the playbook, what they call a playbook, where you make a big fuss about something and then you don't do anything. It happened in the UK when there was a similar thing, when they were meant to have war crimes trials, and they made a huge fuss about war crimes from the SAS. It's a familiar story, and you know how many of them went to jail? You know how many of them were put on trial? Zero. So what do you think's going to happen here? The whole thing is run as a spin operation to make themselves look good. They want to win the progressives over. They do the report, and then they're scared of the conservatives, so no one ever goes to trial, except the truth teller, except people like Julian Assange. As I said last night, the reason they hate Julian Assange is simply because he exposed the truth. He revealed that the products that they sell and that they say are safe and that are good are actually toxic. And they hated that. They absolutely hated that. And again, like Julian Assange, none of the people whose crimes he exposed have faced trial. They haven't even faced inquiries. And yet his life has been turned upside down. Like he's the problem. It's a sickness. It's a sickness when we blame the truth teller. We blame the messenger. You people don't. You people are on the right side of history. And someone this morning was talking about, they'd just seen the movie, The Trial of the Chicago 7. I think that it won't be long before there is a similar movie about Australia at this time. And you people will be the stars. You people will be the sort of people when people watch that movie in 20 years' time, they'll be going, weren't those people heroic who stood out there and protested and never stopped talking, you know? You guys are the heroes. I'd be dead if I didn't have support. I would have killed myself a few years ago if I didn't have support. And it's not about people saying, oh, do you want to have a cup of tea or whatever. It's about people getting what the issues are. You people get it, you know. And every time someone gives me some support, says hello, sends me a message, it gives me strength. So much strength, though, that I'm not going to die, but I can go to jail with my head held high. And I know, and does anybody in Australia doubt, that I am 10 times the man that the Attorney General is. And he will never, ever be able to get over that. Don't see me crying about, imagine my political career is ruined. I don't think anybody doubts he was crying for anybody but himself.
Money! Money!
The same way Linda Reynolds wasn't crying for anybody except her own ruined career. They are the most despicable group of people have been gathered for a long time. And I don't care whether they sue me in defamation. They can do that after the trial, and I can tell them my defences are going to be truth and public interest. Let them try.
I want to keep that holiday home.
Anyway, back to you. You've been here long enough. Thank you so much. Great to see you. Thanks for looking after my dog. And I look forward to seeing you again at the trial or the hearing in a couple of months' time.
Yeah, we're talking